than a new Acura from Acura of Stockton. And now save thousands on a new 2021 Acura TLX with 0% financing for 36 months. Shop in person or online. Pre-select your favorite Acura and pick it up when it arrives. It's that easy. Acura of Stockton and AcuraofStockton.com.
Unapproved super preferred credit through AHFC. Max term 36 months. $27.78 for $1,000 financing with zero down. May not be combined with other offers. Not all buyers may qualify. Expires 1/3/2022.
If your seasonal hiring needs are covered, then you don't need Indeed. Indeed is a smart hiring platform that delivers 4 times more hires than all other sites combined. According to Talent Nest, post a job and hire ASAP. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Dude, we like to pause and wish you a happy Thanksgiving. This is Mark from Trademark Pull and Spa, and in the spirit of giving, for the month of November, we're offering 50% off on all PebbleTech interior finishes. Let my design team show you how we can transform that pull and spa. Come into our design center or visit us on the web at atrademarkpull.com. We've built a reputation on integrity, innovation, and inspiration. This is Mark from Trademark Pull and Spa, where all things are possible.
Happy holidays don't just happen on their own. You make them happen with a little help from new appliances at the Home Depot. Because warm wishes won't roast that turkey. You'll want a new convection oven for that. An air fryer will help make the season light and delicious. And while you're at it, consider a new LG or Samsung fridge that's big enough to hold all kinds of Christmas cheer. Make the holidays yours with the season's best savings on top appliances at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
If I tell them about the deals, they'll go to Didi's. Fashion, home, gifts. Get to Didi's discounts for deals on the daily. Hello, this is Discover, and we take customer service very seriously. We know that if you have a question or concern about your credit card, that's a serious matter, and you need to talk to a real person about it. So we offer around-the-clock access to seriously talented representatives in the USA. Again, it's a serious endeavor. The only funny thing about it is Bob. If you call us and Bob answers, you're in for a treat. Get 100% U.S.-based customer service and talk to a real person day or night. Discover exceptionally common sense.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce?
Spill the sauce? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills and messes quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce? Okay.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Without a pre-rinse? That's right. Unlike other detergents, Cascade Platinum has 50% more cleaning power with enzymes that break down food particles. It even works in your dishwasher's quick wash cycle. So skip the pre-rinse and switch to Cascade Platinum with 50%.
Only Wendy's serves a better breakfast with a better biscuit. Our hot buttery breakfast biscuits are loaded with a fresh cracked egg, cheese, and your choice of bacon or sausage. And right now at Wendy's, they're only $1 each.
Wendy's breakfast biscuits, just $1.
So don't take a chance with those other guys. Bet your buck on a better breakfast with Wendy's bacon or sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
U.S. price of participation may vary with 5 qualifying items per transaction. Not valid in a combo. Excludes honey butter chicken biscuit.
Shop laptops, monitors, and more, plus free shipping. Call 800-BY-DELL. That's 800-BY-DELL.
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the
sauce. Who brought
the sauce? Spill the sauce? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills and messes quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand.
Who brought the sauce?
I brought the sauce.
Who made the sauce?
I made the sauce.
What's in the sauce?
I am the sauce.
Who brought the sauce? Okay.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
All you're left with are cold, soggy fries. That's why Wendy's new fries are ones you won't forget. Guaranteed to be hot and crispy. Or we'll replace them. We're talking natural cut, skin-on fries, perfectly seasoned with a hint of sea salt. In fact, they're even preferred almost 2-to-1 over McDonald's. These are fries so hot and crispy, they beg a new question.
What would you like with your fries?
Try them today, only at Wendy's.
Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C Sports. This is Charlton with Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. According to people who like sports, it's all fair in Level 1. What a beautiful November the 23rd, 2021. Grando Deportes, Bonjour, de Vici Vici. As I say, welcome to the show, SB-nominated Big C Sports. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, just tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa. In fact, there's actually 18 podcast applications from Google, Alexa. In fact, I'll read them down if I don't forget them all. It's hard to remember 18 of anything. But you can follow Big C Sports all around the world on Google Podcasts, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeart-Radio-Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. Man, I gotta catch my breath. I'm not in the greatest shape. Just clap for people who need to get in shape. Give a big clap for people who need to get in shape. You can find us on Giovanni Podcast, out of London, England, Podtail Podcast, YouTube Podcast, Hubhopper, Stitcher, Radio Online, Repod, Luminary, and also, so that's 18 podcasts, and then 4 TV podcasts all over the universe. You can find us on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and again, a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Give that some praise. Give that some praise while I catch my breath. Excuse me while I catch my breath. I love paying homage to my family legacy on this beautiful Thanksgiving holiday weekend. I actually had some turkey today. I think tryptophan is really real. It makes you feel sleepy. Give tryptophan some praise. Who needs some cough soup, or what they call it, you want to make a baby go to sleep, you give them some type of NyQuil. No, just have them eat some turkey. I had some turkey today. Man, it really gets down into my intestines and makes me want to fall asleep. I don't want to fall asleep. I do it. Big C Sports Podcast. I pay homage to my family legacy on my mother's side. From Mama, my great-grandmother, and then Pop, my great-grandfather. They did everything they could to keep the family strong. I remember those turkey days where they got the family together and people broke bread and lamented about some good times. My beautiful grandmother called her Mud Deer, and my grandfather Hezekiah, also just very intelligent people, hardworking. And my beautiful mother, always remember being able to help do the stuffing and all the gravy and all the great things. And the house always smelled like it was the best restaurant in the history of the universe. Also, my mother started a Head Start program in Northern California and helped the Little League baseball team with the Little League Championship of the universe. Really do appreciate that. Always saying, rise and shine. Best food I've ever ate came out of my mama's hands. It's all fair and level. On my father's side, Albert Curry, my grandfather, a pastor, owned 2 service stations. My grandmother, Alberta Curry, worked with my grandfather to build 2 service stations and also built 2 churches. Actually, a third one in Central California, 2 in Oakland, California. And my brother Todd with a bombastic voice that said, excuse me, did I break your concentration? That's where I get my loud voice from. And then really appreciate that. My son Malcolm is all over the NBA basketball. Sends me stats on NBA basketball. Really do appreciate that he knows everything there is about sports. When it comes to NBA, my daughter Daisy would help me set up events when coaches came to the West Coast, and then Big C with his wealth of knowledge is all fair and level work. Give everybody some praise, especially on this beautiful Thanksgiving holiday weekend. A lot of people are already on the road and getting out of town. But I love saying, as I get ready to do Big C Sports Podcast, I say, let's get ready to rumble! On a beautiful November 23rd, welcome to the show. And I'm trying not to fall asleep with the turkey that I had, the turkey sandwich. SB-nominated Big C Sports Podcast, no scripts, no 3-way teleprompters, no producer in my ear. I do the show with my higher self. So I produce the show, I direct all the topics, I broadcast the shows. That goes out to 18 podcast applications. And word has it, in 2022, we'll be on 20 podcast applications to do the commercials outside of what's done out of the agency in New York City. I provide the stats. I do all the storytelling. I do the play-by-play. Steph Curry, 4-3. Good old boy has Klay Thompson back in the saddle. He's actually back in the saddle with the Golden State Warriors, figuring out what he's going to do with he had a full practice, and now they're going to figure out if he can actually run with the team. So if he can run with the team, that just means the Golden State Warriors will be even more formidable as they get ready to make their run at the holiday season for NBA basketball. They're already good enough. Imagine when they get that good old boy back, it's just going to get better. And then I do the uploading of the show to 18 podcast applications all over the universe. I don't do the uploading myself. The agency does. But to be on 18 podcast applications, and I mean, there's always people in the background that help make it possible. But I challenge anyone in the world, any one of our sports shows from ESPN to Fox Sports, all of them, iHeart-Radio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, how many people are on 18 applications? Really, 18 is a lot. That means the agency had to bring you on because they like your product. Not everybody that knows me likes the product, but some people who don't know what they do. So that's all fair. Give that some praise. All you need is one person to like you. It's all fair. And sometimes that's all you got. It's all happy holidays. Happy holidays to the sports universe. But I really do love doing Big C Sports Podcast. I love paying homage to Scripture. And one of my favorite verses in the Bible was Genesis 13:15. It says, "For all the land that thou seest will I give you, and thy seed forever." And the book of James chapter 4 verse 2 said, "You have not because you ask not." So if you want something to just ask and give God some praise. It's all fair and love of war. The good Lord never forsakes you. It doesn't matter what people do. I want to make sure, I've been running across some veterans lately, and there's a Veterans Crisis Hotline that Big C told me about 3 years ago. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. And with COVID, there's a lot of people have just lost. It's like, Spock, have you lost your freaking mind? Remember the Star Trek? Captain Kirk says, Spock, have you lost your freaking mind? Well, a lot of people lost their freaking mind because, I mean, it's just crazy. I know a lot of people going through junk that used to love each other, don't even say hi. It's all crazy. But that's the way the devil comes to divide, to kill, steal, and destroy. That's what my pastor told me over the weekend. If you're dealing with anybody that looks to kill, steal, and destroy, and to divide, that's not of God. It's not. It's just not. So everybody, keep that in mind as you sit down and people try to divide and kill, steal, and destroy. But for the veterans who fought for this country, they have a crisis hotline, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net and get some help for our veterans. Give them all praise. Love reaching out and giving that PSA for our veterans. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, and then they even cover some of the San Francisco Giants in the baseball seasons. I'm really happy to say thank you for being affiliated with Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, boy, you talk too loud. No, I'm sorry. God said, let there be light. Let there be light. Don't get yourself on to say play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll see the apps pop up on 18 podcast applications. And that's all over the world. And I really do appreciate that. I love being affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV. And then also, if you're interested in knowing more about real estate on the national level, go to nationalrealestatepost.com. That's nationalrealestatepost.com. And you can also go on to mortgagedailynews.com. That's mortgagedailynews.com to find out more about what's going on in real estate. Or call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Find out more about the Big C team. Yeah, give that some praise. Looking to get about 10,000 people to work with the Big C team in real estate, putting people back to work, just like McDonald's does it, Nike does it, and then sports teams are doing it too all over the country, all fair and level world. When you're out there betting on sports, there's always that guy that say, hey, Carlton, I got a deal that can't miss. I got a deal that's so good. It's so good you're going to kick yourself if you don't give me your money. You guys, be careful of those guys. Always ask them, can they put in the first money? if their tune changes. If you always ask these guys to have a can't miss bet, then why are they calling you? If they have a can't miss bet, why are they calling you, asking you to put up money? They should put up the money first. Give that some praise. Put the money up first if your deal is so good you can't miss. A lot of guys got hurt over the weekend betting on sports, so be careful. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. Also, I want to say thank you to Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, 100% honest game. Sports fans, when you're watching the big game, eat it with the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with, what's all those exotic meats? If you know there's a lot of exotic meats on Big C Burgers. In fact, what's in some of the burgers anyway? At least the Big C Burger, you know the meat is real Because sometimes you still see that little heartbeat in the meat. Some of those burgers, I can't testify. I can't testify it tastes better in your mouth than it does in your head. So be careful when people say, hey, have a bite of this burger. You don't even know where the meat came from. The Big C Burger is full of exotic meats. That's why I love Big C Sports Podcast. It's all over the world. You know, for Thanksgiving holidays, people are traveling. Hotels are packed. Airports are full. Planes, trains, and automobiles. And there are people that are just on the road. And just seeing how sometimes people are just mean. Slow down. Just slow down. That turkey's not going anywhere, especially if it has tryptophan. If they feed turkeys tryptophan, it's not going to go anywhere. I can test that for my own. That's my own validation. Man, I shouldn't eat that turkey before the show. Give me some praise. I got to wake up. It's all fair in the war, but there'll be some NFL protocols for COVID. I mean, people are still being infected. There's supposedly some type of a strain that's coming from the Midwest already in Europe. So for people who want to get vaccinated, I could just say reach out to your doctor. I know there are people who don't believe in it, but you can't please everybody. There's 8 billion people on the planet. You're going to find at least a couple of people that disagree, and that's okay if people disagree. But go get yourself some medical information. At least give medical information some praise. Give that some praise. It's all fair and level work. I'm going to take the time to look at what happened in the world of sports. We know we have football, basketball. It's like every day of the week you can find football, basketball, or baseball in the United States of America. And what I really love about the college football season is it reminds me of when life was supposed to be, your prime in your life is when you're in college. Some people say high school. But in the prime of life is where college is, and you get to meet new people. Oftentimes you meet people that you start your own life with, and you do the best you can to just enjoy and get the best education you can. But something about sports being a billion-dollar industry, boys and girls sports is a billion-dollar industry, and it makes things come together. What I love about being on the West Coast, the weather's always great. Okay, even in the wintertime. I think it's about 50 degrees. It's supposed to be wintertime, but it's sunshine. There's some places on the East Coast that are kind of snowed in, but we love it here in California. But I'm going to talk about some of the Pac-12 projections for the college football playoffs and the bowl projections. And there are people all over the country that have their own opinion. And when I saw what Utah did to Oregon over the weekend up near the Wasatch Mountains in the beautiful state of Utah, it was a beatdown, 38-7. And Oregon just didn't show up. Now they have their own in-state rival game going on with Oregon State coming up over the weekend. But the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, I used to always wake up in the morning, my brothers and I, and watch the Rose Bowl. Sleep in front of the TV, watch it from sun up to sundown outside of playing sports in the backyard. And so a lot of people are thinking that Utah's going to be in the Rose Bowl, maybe against Michigan, if Ohio State beats Michigan this week in their big game. And a lot of people are already putting Georgia and Ohio State in the college football playoff championship game. We'll see what happens. I mean, Alabama still has a lot to say about it. They have the Iron Bowl coming up this weekend against Auburn. And most likely, Georgia's going to blow out Georgia Tech, which gave up even against Notre Dame, and their big game down there, the interstate rival in Georgia. And then you're going to have the Iron Bowl with the Auburn and Alabama doing their thing, and then Michigan and Ohio State. So when you think about it, there's some experts who project bowl matchups and provide optimism for even some of the fans at Cal Berkeley. That's a 4-6 team. How could you have optimism when you go 4 wins and 6 losses? But 5 of the 10 in college football sites will be cited and predict that the Golden Bears will play in a bowl game. With a 4-6 record, I don't know how, but they slot Cal into 4 different bowl games. There's one called the LA Bowl, the Gasparilla Bowl, the First Responders Bowl, and the Armed Forces Bowl. Cal bowl destinations indicated in bold letters. I'm going to bring it up to you. Cal Berkeley Golden Bears. I started doing my football broadcast down at Cal Berkeley and also Stanford back in the late 90s. But for Cal to be in 4-6 team, I remember they were at one time ranked number 1 in the country for a couple of minutes and 1/2, and I think they were playing Oregon State at that game. But long story short, Cal has some work to do to make that happen. The Golden Bears, fresh off of it, they won the big game, which is called the Cal-Stanford game, the big game for the Aggies. It was a 41-11 win over Stanford, and they would need to beat UCLA in Pasadena on Saturday, and then also defeat USC in Berkeley December 4th to become bowl eligible. Remember, USC and Cal were put on hold. They were put on pause because the Berkeley football team had an outbreak of COVID-19 after they had played Arizona earlier in the year down in Arizona. So they have 2 more games left on the schedule. They could potentially go take that record from 4-6 to 6-6. We'll see what's going to happen with that. But I doubt if they're going to beat UCLA down in Pasadena. UCLA, you saw what they did to USC. And will they get USC, which seems to have maybe given up on the season? Maybe they will. But at the moment, people keep saying, well, the Pac-12 is out of the BCS National Championship picture, but at least they have their own hope of going to bowl games. If that matters to a lot of people, I know it will. At the moment, only 6 Pac-12 teams have the 6 wins needed to be bowl eligible. Oregon, and man, they just lucked out. I don't understand how to explain how they lost to Utah in the fashion that they lost to Utah. I could see if they lost 31-28. This is the same Utah that lost to Oregon State, the team that Oregon's playing this week. So whatever that is, I don't understand how they lost that game in that fashion, 38-7. Even 28-25, 28-24, somewhere along there. But 38-7? But Oregon's bowl eligible, so is Utah, Oregon State, UCLA, Arizona State, and then Washington State. So there's no assurance the Pac-12 will have enough eligible teams for all the bowls with the Pac-12 tie-ins, with the college football playoff berth now off the table for the Pac-12. The most intriguing projections for the Rose Bowl, and I think there's about 7 to 10 people out there that have their own thoughts, but there's a projection that I have with Big C Sports that Utah, they have to play in the Pac-12 championship game, but they're the Pac-12 South winners, edged out Arizona State, and they're going to be in the Rose Bowl. I think that's the first time they'll play in the Rose Bowl, and other than 3 predicting Oregon will be in the Rose Bowl, Oregon would have to beat Utah. I don't see how they're going to get blown out 38-7, and then go down to Las Vegas and play in the Pac-12 championship game and turn around and beat that same team. But stranger things have happened. So you have 8 of the 9 sites that list bowl pairings expect Michigan to be the Big Ten's entry into the Rose Bowl. Who knows? They may knock off Ohio State over the weekend. So there's a lot that has to happen in order for teams to decide which team goes where. And a lot of people think the Pac-12 teams get berths in New Year's 6 bowl games. Utah will be in the Rose Bowl. Could be Oregon. And Oregon or Utah could end up in the Fiesta Bowl. Either way, it's a disappointing season because Oregon was right there with a chance. They control their own destiny. They already had 9 wins. They needed 2 more wins, and they didn't get it. All fair and love and war. Season's not over, but they were right there having a chance to go to the big dance. Haven't been there since they lost the national championship game to Ohio State. I think it was 41-20 back in 2015. But if you think about the teams that are projected to be the best chances to play for the national championship, people are looking at Georgia, but not so fast, my friend. Georgia still has a chance. They have a chance to get knocked off, not by Georgia Tech, but Alabama. Alabama, all they do is win every year. And there was a year not too long ago when Georgia was in a national championship game against Alabama. Alabama won the game. I think Jalen Hurts was quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa came on and replaced him at halftime and threw the winning touchdown pass in the national championship game. It was the same type of feeling we have right now. Georgia hasn't won a national title since I think Herschel Walker played back in the day. And so they're always going to be talking about can they get through. And they're a very good team, but so is Alabama. And Alabama's been tested. Georgia hasn't been tested. So we'll see what happens. There's also talk with the college football playoffs that the University of Cincinnati's going to be pitted. Maybe they're going to be in there. You got Georgia, you got Alabama, Ohio State, and people are talking Cincinnati unless, wouldn't it be a shame if Notre Dame jumped Cincinnati? They're a bigger national name, but Cincinnati beat them at South Bend, so I doubt if that's going to happen. And Cincinnati may still get knocked off. They have a championship game in the AAC championship because I think they're playing against Houston. But it's all fair and love and war, and that's why they play the game. No matter who goes where, I'm just happy that the bowl games are here. Give the bowl games some praise. I love seeing the young college kids get their cleats dusted off and get a chance to get into the bowl games. But sometimes, when you think about a Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, does the country really want to see the University of Utah, the Utes, versus the Michigan Wolverines? And Michigan saying, wait a minute, who's got it better than us? Michigan still has a chance to knock off the Ohio State Buckeyes. I doubt if it's going to happen, but stranger things have happened. But these are just projections. But I've always watched the Rose Bowl, and of course, I would watch a Utah versus Michigan game. But this is the same Utah that lost to Oregon State, and they also lost to BYU earlier in the season. I remember Utah started slow, but they finished strong. Don't want to punish them for finishing strong. I mean, all they do is keep winning at least later in the year. Maybe they'll learn their lesson, and next year when they schedule games, don't schedule schools like a BYU or someone that could beat you. Go down to Central Tech or University of Tennessee Chattanooga or Alabama Birmingham, anyone that's outside of a team like a BYU. It's all fair and love and war. And then the Fiesta Bowl, if the Fiesta Bowl ends up with an Oregon versus Notre Dame, those are two marquee programs that will put people in the seats and get people to follow the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Oregon Ducks. That would be a game and a matchup that I would definitely watch. Oregon and Notre Dame, the traditional golden domes that Notre Dame wears. And then Oregon, you never know what color they're going to show up with. But they put the duck wings on the side of their helmets, and I think that looks good with the O on the back of it. It's all fair and love and war. The Alamo Bowl, UCLA, Oklahoma. These matchups are primetime matchups when you have the Alamo Bowl with UCLA out of the Pac-12 versus Oklahoma out of the Big 12, which will be soon joining the SEC. But Oklahoma, that's a team also like Oregon. They were rolling toward a Final Four in college football, but they got their 17-game win streak snapped too. So Oregon doesn't have to feel that bad. It's still, well, you got Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and Cincinnati, the top four right now. Things can change. Just last week, Oregon was in the top three. Things changed. Another game that might draw some interest. Of course, UCLA, Oklahoma, interesting when I think about Jamel Holloway back in the mid-'80s and Troy Aikman, when Troy Aikman got his leg broken against the University of Miami, and Terry Donahue got a call from Barry Switzer and said, I got a quarterback that can fit your system on the West Coast. So Troy Aikman ended up at UCLA. He was the starting quarterback at Oklahoma at one time out of Henrietta, Oklahoma. And Jamel Holloway took over out of Banning High School in Southern California, led Oklahoma to the Orange Bowl, where they beat Penn State. And I believe they beat Penn State 25-10 and won a national championship. And then UCLA, Troy Aikman never took him to the Rose Bowl, but he definitely was an All-American and became a first-round draft pick in the NFL. The Las Vegas Bowl, which is at the site where the Pac-12 will play their Pac-12 championship game, most likely Oregon and Utah. They're looking at teams like Arizona State and the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. That would be a great crowd on hand down in Las Vegas, especially the crowd that can drive over from Tempe, Arizona, and then the crowd that would fly into Minnesota. So that should be a nice matchup. Arizona State versus Minnesota. That's the Pac-12 versus the Big Ten. And now another game, bowl projection. Who would have ever thought that in the Holiday Bowl down in San Diego, you would have the Washington State Cougars versus the Clemson Tigers? That would be sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger and it comes with what's all the exotic meat. But the Cougars and the Tigers. Think about Clemson and how they've been at the doorstep of national championships with Dabo Swinney over the past several years. And Washington State known for their air raid attack, but not a Pac-12 power. I think that would be intriguing to have Clemson have to travel across the country to the West Coast as opposed to keeping them regional. And then Washington State fans would travel down from Washington State to San Diego to watch the Holiday Bowl. But Washington State versus Clemson, I don't know if that intrigues me as much as they would see maybe a UCLA and a Clemson, if that makes sense. I mean, it's just a thought, but Washington State and Clemson, not really something that people make their plans to watch. It just seems like they don't have anything in common. Clemson's played for national championships the last 5 years. It seems they've been one of the top 4 teams of the country. Washington State hasn't even won a Rose Bowl. So I don't see the intrigue of that matchup. Sun Bowl, you have the Oregon State versus Virginia. Now, down in Arizona, the Sun Bowl, Virginia gave up 66 points to BYU last time they crossed the Mississippi. So would they be an intriguing matchup to watch Virginia play Oregon State? I don't see the intrigue of that. I would rather see these teams stay regional, kind of like what they do in the FCS. They keep teams regional so fans don't have to get on an airplane and travel from Virginia down to Arizona to play the Sun Bowl against Oregon State fans. And many of them may not make a big trip anyway, but it is Pac-12 territory. And in the LA Bowl, you have Texas San Antonio versus San Diego State. I don't know, again, if you're down in San Diego, the Aztecs have played good football this year. Maybe that's a draw for you, but I don't really, I mean, you can't knock it. Just regionalize the bowl games. I guess you can say San Diego State and Texas are close to being regionalized as much as possible. The Cotton Bowl for the national semifinal, I'm going to just tell you, if you have the Final Four, Alabama versus Ohio State, I still think Alabama's going to beat Georgia, but I might be wrong. I just feel that they've been tested, and it's going to show up in the SEC championship game. Of course, they got to get through Auburn, and I think no question about it. I think Georgia's got to get through Georgia Tech. But if people are thinking that this is going to be the matchup, that Alabama's going to play Ohio State, that would be a 2 versus 3. And then Georgia's going to play Cincinnati. That would be a 1 versus 4 in the Orange Bowl for the national semifinal. Georgia and Cincinnati played last year in a bowl game, and actually Cincinnati played them pretty close. But I don't think anyone is thinking that this year's Cincinnati team that struggled to get past Tulsa, I think they beat Tulsa 28-21. Tulsa lost to UC Davis, which is a strong team in Division II. UC Davis was beaten at home in the Causeway Classic 27-3, actually 27-6 to Sacramento State. So think about that. Cincinnati going to play Georgia. That's the projection if everything were to go as planned today. But you know, things change weekly. I still feel that somehow, some way, if Alabama knocks off Georgia in the SEC championship game, they're going to keep Georgia in the bowl games. That would put Ohio State would move to the top if they beat Michigan, and they'd be the number 1 seed. And then the number 2 seed would most likely be Alabama. And then the number 3 seed would most likely be, they would sneak in Cincinnati for the number 3 seed. And Georgia would be the number 4 seed, even though they're a better team than Cincinnati. But either way you put it, it's musical chairs. The top teams, the top 4 are going to play each other. And that's why I think that this college football playoff has it wrong. Just follow the FCS. They have 24 teams in the playoff bracket. And it's no doubt that out of 24 teams, you're going to find the top teams being able to beat each other and play against each other in the bowl games. So just going over some more thoughts that some other people have for the bowl series, the way it could match up in the Rose Bowl. Again, that big talk that Utah will play against Michigan unless Oregon beats them in the Pac-12 championship game, which I doubt it because they already lost in a game they had to win. I don't know if they're as motivated to get to the Rose Bowl. I'm not going to say they're not motivated, but there has to be an upset stomach from losing that game the way they lost. I don't see them turning around and reversing the trend of a 38-7 beatdown, even though they're going to be on a neutral site once they get down to Las Vegas, where they play at Allegiant Stadium for the Pac-12 championship. But just for the sake of words, in the Fiesta Bowl, some people putting Oregon versus Baylor. That's green versus green. Baylor has a lot of money down there in Waco, Texas. Oregon has a lot of money up in Eugene, Oregon. Both teams, they love the color green, so no matter who has the more green in the uniform, it's still going to be a sight for green eyes, if that makes sense to you. A game that I saw Marcus Dupree against Arizona State back in the day, I think it was the Sun Bowl, Arizona State versus Oklahoma. Some people look at that in the Alamo Bowl. That's kind of a regionalized game. Arizona, Oklahoma to meet down in Texas at the Alamo Bowl. That's not a game that I would not mind seeing. I would definitely tune into that game and watch that game. Now, the Las Vegas Bowl, some projections have it UCLA versus Wisconsin. I would definitely watch UCLA Wisconsin. This game sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with what's all this exotic meats? Because a Badger and a Bruin are exotic meats. That makes sense to you. But that's a game that I would definitely tune in to see UCLA in the Las Vegas Bowl versus Wisconsin. And the old Las Vegas Bowl was played out at the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. Now they play at the beautiful Allegiant Stadium, home of the Las Vegas Raiders. But UCLA, Wisconsin, definitely a draw. The Holiday Bowl, this is where I think it's unfair again and why the regionalizing of games makes more sense. In the Holiday Bowl, why not? They got Oregon State slated for the Holiday Bowl. This is other projections. against North Carolina State. Oregon State, North Carolina State. That's down in San Diego. So North Carolina plays on the East Coast. They would have to get on an airplane and fly all the way across the country. They won't have a lot of fans that would follow them to play Oregon State. Why? What would be the purpose? You're going to have a stadium that's not jam-packed. Oregon doesn't even draw a lot of fans at home. North Carolina's not going to have a lot of people in the Holiday Bowl traveling across the country to watch the North Carolina State Tar Heels take on the Oregon State Beavers. But you got to play games. I just think they could regionalize games and make it make more sense. That's just my opinion. In the Sun Bowl, another projection. Does anyone want to see Washington State travel down to Arizona? No, I think the Sun Bowl is actually in New Mexico. I think they play that at UTEP, University of Texas El Paso Stadium, in the Sun Bowl. So I beg your pardon for that. But Washington State versus the Miami Hurricanes. I don't see a lot of people making that trip. Miami, they don't even sell out at home unless they're playing a Florida State or a Florida or a Clemson. So now they're going to put Miami on an airplane and make them fly out to New Mexico and then have Washington State flying from the great Northwest and play that game. Doesn't make any sense because there are a lot of regional games they could have. For example, why not have a Washington State play a San Diego State? This is just projections. A Washington State versus a San Diego State or Washington State versus Fresno State makes a lot more sense to me. Or Washington State versus Nevada makes a lot more sense to me, keeping them regional on the West Coast, maybe in a Las Vegas Bowl. And if you have a team like Miami and they're already in the South, why not have them stay in the South in a bowl game and play some of the Southern schools? You have the ACC versus the SEC. Maybe that's what you would have a Miami versus Kentucky. Or a Miami could play an Ole Miss because you have regional games where it's not so far for fans to even drive, let alone fly. So that's my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion, but that's some of the bowl projections. I wanted to bring it to you, Big C Sports Tower. Going to take what's called the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk more about some sports. In the words of the former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 18 podcast applications and 4 TV applications all over the universe. Really do appreciate that. Last night for some Monday Night Football, not the best game, but it was a game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending NFL Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 30 and the New York Giants 10. Tampa gets off their 2-game losing streak. And when you think about this game, there's already been some changes. Garrett's been let go in New York. Daniel Jones passed for only 167 yards against the Buccaneers. And when you think about it, the Giants are 3-6 in the biggest city in the country. So people are mad at the Giants, so they have to have some changes in the organization. The Buccaneers, 307 yards passing, touchdown Tom Brady. A lot of things went right for the Buccaneers. The Giants managed only 215 total yards, gave up almost twice as much in first downs. And the Giants just have a lot of issues. And there's talk that maybe, just maybe, they're trying to work out a way to get Russell Wilson to leave Seattle and go to New York City next year. But they have their own problems up in Seattle. There's always projections. People say who's going to go where. And no one really knows until it's all about contracts. Do you have money in the contracts and how that makes sense? But when you think about it, in the passing department, Tom Brady looked good last night, got his groove back. It's just a matter of time before the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make their Super Bowl stretch. They got the kinks out of them. I think last year when they went on their Super Bowl run, they were 7-5. And they did not lose any more games since going 7-5. Now think about where they are right now. They've got the kinks worked out of their system. I think when you look at the receivers that they have down there, they just got, when they have Gronk in the game, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know everything that's going on about the whole team with the fake COVID card, etc. But they have Antonio Brown. They have a good team. They got to get him in the saddle because Brady and their offensive coordinator, they know what they're doing. Leftwich knows what they're doing down there with the Buccaneers. I think Tampa's going to make a nice, solid run. I don't think they're going to repeat as NFC champions. Just too much to go through. Last year, they had to do it all on the road. So they may win their division this year, the NFC South, but I'm not looking at them to be a Super Bowl team this year. They will get into the playoffs and make a little bit of noise. But as far as really going far and knocking teams off and doing what they did last year, I don't see if that's going to happen at all. I just don't see it happening. Too many good players in the NFL and too many good teams. I'm still loving what Arizona's doing, even winning with Colt McCoy. He's won on the road at San Francisco. He's won on the road at Seattle. San Francisco most likely will be a playoff team if they beat the Vikings this weekend. So the 49ers and the Vikings, they're right there in the thick of things too. So if you look at Arizona, when they get Murray back, I think they're still in the driver's seat, along with the Green Bay Packers with touchdown Aaron Rodgers. But if they have head-to-head competition, even though the Cardinals have a better record than Green Bay won the head-to-head. Both teams are going to lose another game or two throughout the latter half of the season, but we'll see. So when you think about some of the takeaways for Week 11, I think about some of the things that stick out in my mind, and I talked about it before they went to Buffalo and got the upset. Week 11, the best performance, of my opinion, came on the run game with running back Jonathan Taylor. Got his chest to the win, 185 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 19 more yards and a 5th score on 3 catches. Indianapolis pulled off the upset. Or is it an upset? Because Buffalo, to lose is one thing, but for them to lose 41-15 at home, I don't know if that's an upset or if they just kind of lost their mojo. When you think about it, Taylor's performance, the Vikings also upset the Packers on a final play field goal. Receiver Justin Jefferson helped them get to 169 receiving yards and a pair of touchdowns. But maybe some people say that even bigger than that. Bigger than that was the upset, because the Vikings and the Packers always play each other close anyway. So the home team usually wins. But if you want to look at a real upset, is it a Las Vegas special? How in the world did the Texans, the Houston Texans, beat the Tennessee Titans, which had the best record in the NFL at the time, 22-13? Think about that. We know there's no touchdown Derrick Henry. You have quarterback Ryan Tannehill threw 4 interceptions. I'll repeat that again. Ryan Tannehill threw 4 interceptions, and that's why there was an upset. You can't have that kind of play. This is a team that's built on defense and running the football. Adrian Peterson, not going to be the same as touchdown Derrick Henry. And then what I think was maybe not an upset, Ron Rivera's team, they beat Tampa. People call that an upset. In fact, I think they beat them by 10 points. And then Ron Rivera went on the road against his former team in Carolina and won. It was a narrow win, but they won 27-20. Cam Newton had 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. And Cam has 5 touchdowns since he's come back in 2 games. And he could have been in Washington also. But Cam had a great game. The defense didn't hold up against Washington. But you think about it also, the Dolphins won their 3rd straight game. Making a little bit of noise. Dolphins fly low or they swim low. But they're making a little bit of noise in the AFC East, but don't get too excited about that. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're making an improvement. But their 3rd straight game. Now the Browns, the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland, this is for you. They narrowly avoided a loss to the Limb. Even people talk about the loss to the... They got blown out at New England. You could just throw away that tape. And they had a close win over the Detroit Lions, who have not won a game since last year. They had a tie with Pittsburgh on the road. So that's a win. It wasn't a loss. At least it wasn't a loss, so kind of a win morale-wise. And then they played the Browns close. So the Lions are going to beat someone this year. They're going to have a game where they win a game. And then you think about the Ravens playing without quarterback Superman Lamar Jackson. They hung on to beat the Bears after Justin Fields was forced to leave the game with a rib injury. I love the way Justin Fields plays, but if you're a quarterback that's as talented as Justin Fields and you're going to run, the crowd's going to go nuts when they see you, that run-pass option. They love that, but also the linebackers are going to see you. And the DBs are going to see you. And that's how he has the rib injury. So he's a solid athlete. He's only a rookie. Could you imagine how good he'll be in 3 more seasons? The Eagles' run games, people that want to doubt Jalen Hurts, they continue to look good in a 40-point outburst against the Saints with 3 rushing scores from touchdown Jalen Don't Hurts him, 94 rushing yards from Miles Sanders, And the 49ers took care of business down in Jacksonville. They were getting buck wild in Jacksonville. That run game, they had a 20-play drive, the 49ers did. A 20-play drive. They ended up with a field goal, but they won 30-10. And that team is knocking back they're knocking on the door for the playoffs. There's gold in them their heels in the San Francisco Bay Area. They took care of business in Jacksonville. And then the Patriots looked dominant on Thursday and a shutout of the Atlanta Falcons, 25-0 down there in beautiful Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And Atlanta seems like they've given up. But Matt Ryan let a rookie come in there from the South and Mac Jones and outplay him. And Arthur Blank is happy with it because everyone's talking about, we can't give Cam Newton a job. Well, Cam Newton, 5 touchdowns in 2 games. How many touchdowns did Matt Ryan have in the last 2 games? They got beat 43-3 to Dallas and 25-0 to the Patriots. But I guess that's what Arthur Blank likes that. It's all fair and love and war. I'm not blaming everything on one person, but when you win, he gets the credit. It's just a thought. Cam Newton had a hard time even getting a job. No one even wants to give Colin Kaepernick a chance. But think about this, too. In the afternoon games, I thought it was an amazing game. Touchdown, Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs are back. I thought the Cowboys would go in there and get a win. The Chiefs had just come off a 41-14 beatdown of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Cowboys that came off of a beatdown in their game. And then they met for maybe the biggest game over the weekend in Kansas City. And when you think about the crowd in Kansas City, that crowd was absolutely nuts. I love Arrowhead Stadium. Some people say it's the loudest stadium in the NFL. I still think maybe Lumen Field, but they'll have those meters, and those meters do whatever they do. But I think about that and really excited about how Kansas City is playing. I know if you look at the records, you can't always go by records. Who has the best records? If you go by records, then you could say that Cincinnati in college is a better football program than Ohio State. They're undefeated. Ohio State has 1 loss. But put them on the same field, Ohio State probably wins by 2.5. I say 2.5 touchdowns. But that Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott, that was must-see TV. The Cowboys did not score a touchdown for the first time, offensive touchdown this year. But he was sacked 5 times. Offensive line just got overwhelmed by the Kansas City Chiefs defensive front, which had not been all that formidable until they got up against the Raiders. It's all fair and love and war. And then the Bengals stopped a 2-game losing streak by beating the Raiders. That also helped the Kansas City Chiefs get back in the winning column. And so who are the Raiders now? Who really are they? I know they have a lot of things going on in that organization. John Gruden out. Henry Ruggs III, he's out because of the drinking and driving. Anyone that's still dumb enough to drink and drive. And I know there'll be some people doing it over the weekend. Imagine talking to the sheriff if he pulls you over. Driver's license, registration, can you take a breathalyzer test? What do you say? What do you say? If you've been drinking, you know you're going to go to jail. But there are going to be people serving alcohol and getting in their cars driving this weekend. And they know it's illegal. You got to say no. You got to say no so you don't have to talk to the highway patrolman. But I know some people are going to do it anyway. It's a shame. Mothers get drunk drivers. Some people give their children alcohol and say, hey, have a safe drive home. It's a shame. I just hope that people will listen and don't do it. It doesn't make you the bad guy to say don't drink and drive. In fact, anyone taking away the keys and get a taxi, give them some praise. No one should drink and drive. If you're going to drink, stay and fall asleep. Just stay and go to sleep. Don't drink and drive. If you love somebody, don't do that. Anyone that tells you to do that, they don't love you. Ask the sheriff if you should drink and drive if you're going to do it. I mean, how many people should have told that to Henry Ruggs III? I know what I'm doing. I'm a grown man. I can do what I want to do. Really? Doesn't make any sense. I've met those kind of people all my life. They will argue and cuss you out and tell you can't tell me nothing. I'm a grown person. Until they're in a jail cell because they're too dumb to do what's right. Take the keys. The drink can't be that good. Back to NFL football. And you think about it too. Ask Henry Ruggs III if he could do it all over again, would he have gotten drunk and gotten behind the wheel of a car? Crazy. Raiders and Cardinals, one without Kyler Murray. When you think about it, I'm telling you, there's something. The Cardinals, won without Kyler Murray again. And Colt McCoy looks pretty good. But I think he's only won 11 games as a starter in his whole NFL career. Mostly as a backup, but I think he's also the all-time winningest coach at Texas, University of Texas. Now, the Chargers, how about them Chargers? When you think about the Los Angeles Chargers and their game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, what a game that went down to the wire. The crowd was nuts, but they were mostly Steelers fans. For a team like the Chargers, it's not too late to move back to San Diego. But there's too much media money in Los Angeles for them to ever do that. But a big win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. Must-see TV. The terrible towels were out. All's fair in love and war. And then Monday night, touchdown Tom Brady, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers returned to form. But they beat the New York Giants. The Giants are not that good of a team. They just don't have... they let go of Garrett today. For what? It's not his fault. He's not on the field. He wasn't the one that threw for 167 yards. But everybody has to make a scapegoat of somebody. And obviously, you got to look at people in your organization and say you're going to throw them out with the bathwater. No one throws out the baby with the bathwater. But just recapping NFL scores, Tampa Bay 30, New York Giants 10. Buccaneers look good again. They are a very good football team. They just got to stay healthy. LA Chargers 41, Pittsburgh Steelers 37. Steelers come off of a tie against the Lions and then a last-minute loss to the Chargers, but still put up a good effort with Big Ben. Arizona with a surprising 23-13 win at Seattle. They're sleepless in Seattle with the Seahawks. The Cardinals and the Seahawks. That game was sponsored by the Big C Burger, the tasty burger that comes with, what's all those exotic meats? You know exotic meats. You have Cardinals and Seahawks have to be exotic meats. All's fair in love and war. Kansas City, it was a 19-9 win over the Dallas Cowboys. And to see Dak get sacked 5 times, that offensive line for the Cowboys, they looked dominant against the Falcons. And then against the Chiefs, they just didn't show up. But you got to give Arrowhead Stadium some credibility too. And plus, the Cowboys had a lot of players out of that game too. So I'm not just going to say it was all Kansas City's defense. They didn't have everybody. Cincinnati 32, Las Vegas Raiders 13. And everyone's been looking good against the Raiders lately. Look at how the Giants looked so bad last night. They looked good against the Raiders just 2 weeks ago in the Meadowlands. Houston, that was a shocker of the day. Houston 22, Tennessee Titans 13. That was the best record in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans. Now they lost to a team that's arguably the second to the worst team in the NFL. Maybe also game of the day, touchdown Aaron Rodgers was showing out, but it wasn't quite enough. And the Minnesota Vikings with a 34-31 win over the Green Bay Packers. But that was still a great performance by touchdown Aaron Rodgers. I like watching those two teams play, and it's amazing how well those two teams play each other. They're kind of neck and neck, all fan level war. I'm going to tell you another game that Cleveland 13, Detroit 10. Detroit's been hanging in there. I know they're not a dominant. I know they have no wins. They only have a tie on the season with the Steelers. And then touchdown Baker Mayfield, he's banged up. There's a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield. They got rid of Odell Beckham Jr. And now Cleveland they had a win, but they got blown out by New England Patriots. And they snuck by the Detroit Lions. So they're not feeling as healthy as they should also. Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts him. Nobody wanted to give Jalen Hurts a job, but he's just blowing up in the NFL. A 40-29 win over the New Orleans Saints. And you think about that. That's a great team. They're not going to beat the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East, but they're a team that's making some noise. And I really like what Jalen Hurts has been able to do. Hurts rushed for 71 yards and 3 touchdowns against the top rush defense in the NFL. Think about that. And he's a quarterback nobody wanted. All they got to do is build a team around him. He's won at Oklahoma, took them to the Bowl Championship Series. He also won at Alabama, took them to the Bowl Championship Series. Baltimore with a 16-13 win over Chicago. Superman Lamar Jackson didn't play in that game. Justin Fields got his ribs banged up, wrapped in ice. And the Bears and the Ravens, that game was sponsored by the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with, what's all these exotic meats? We know that a bear and a raven are exotic meats. Is all fair and love and war. And when I think about it, too, there's so much good football being played around the country. We have Thanksgiving Day coming up. Washington with a win at Carolina, 27-21, and a return home for Ron Rivera, reunited with the great Cam Newton. They used to do their thing there in Carolina. But a win is a win, and they got it on the road. That's 2 in a row. They beat Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now they beat Carolina. That's something else. The NFC East taking care of the NFC South. Cam Newton still got 3 touchdowns in that game. Miami Dolphins 24-17 over the New York Jets. Who that say they're going to beat them Jets? Miami Dolphins said they're going to beat the Jets. The Miami, they've been sneaking along. They won a couple of games, put together a slight win streak. I think one of the biggest upsets was the Indianapolis Colts 41, Buffalo 15. I thought the Colts would beat them because they have a great running back, and they were able to run all over the Buffalo Bills defense. But I didn't think they would beat them by that fashion. But the Colts are playing good football. We'll see what happens as they come up next Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think they're going to run over Tampa, but they still will have some success. I still see Tampa's going to win that game. San Francisco really impressed. There's gold in them near hills. Bang Bang Niner game. We'll have Levi Stadium jumping over the weekend after Thanksgiving holiday. They went to Jacksonville, got a 30-10 win, had a 20-play drive to open the game. I think Shanahan's found his winning formula: run the football, short passing games. And the 49ers, when you think about how they run the ball when they don't turn it over, you don't have to have Jimmy G throwing 30-yard passes downfield, just some 10, 15-yard outs. Let the running game take over and you win. And then New England, of course, the 25-0 win over the Atlanta Falcons. Who knows what's going to go on with the Falcons? Are they going to rebuild next year, or are they just going to say, hey, we're going to stick with Matty Ryan and let it happen the way it happens? That's NFL football. I love NFL football. It's all fair in level war. We're going to close out today's show with some NBA basketball. And I know there's gold in them near hills, but there's no LeBron James at Madison Square Garden tonight. And obviously he's out because he did something that he should not have done. He's not a dirty player, but that was a dirty play. I think if you're going to be honest, if someone had punched LeBron James in the eye, he probably would have faced a suspension of a week. But the sad thing for NBA basketball, it's a short night of games. Miami's playing at Detroit. Already tipped off. These games are already tipped off. And, well, the Clippers and Dallas play a little bit later tonight. The Lakers at New York. Denver's at Portland. And so Dollar Dame, have them going up against the Joker. And Dallas at the LA Clippers down at beautiful Staples Center, soon to be called the Crypto.com arena for cryptocurrency. And when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, they're always a talk of the NBA because of 17 NBA championships, and obviously the best unit in basketball over the years. I mean, they have so many Hall of Famers. I mean, you could just say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, Shaq, Kobe, of course now LeBron James. They're trying to fit in Westbrook. Anthony Davis also making the noise at times in the NBA. But he has to stay healthy. Everybody has their own thoughts about NBA basketball. And I love what the league did. But I also know, I mean, if fans, they're going to show up at Madison Square Garden anyways. Packed house all the time. Even if they don't win. They're must-see basketball now. Things can be manufactured in life. Why not have LeBron James? I thought they would have held him, let him play the nice game just for the media to see that. You're not going to see him on the East Coast again in New York unless they meet in the finals. That's not going to happen. But he and Isaiah Stewart, it's just men being men. But LeBron James was wrong about what he did. And I think he knows that. But I thought, and people might say that I'm not being consistent, but man, they could have let LeBron James play at Madison Square Garden tonight. Because the NBA is about players. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Magic Johnson and Showtime with the LA Lakers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Showtime. Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. All's fair in love and war. So I think Madison Square Garden, they're obviously gonna miss that media circus that they would have had with King James. Some good news on the West Coast. Golden State Warriors, Klay Thompson participates in this full practice for the first time since his ACL and Achilles injury. And when you think about that, that's big news for the fans over in San Francisco, Golden State. Give that some praise. Klay Thompson's back in town. It's all fair and level war. Hopefully they'll take their time, but he's participated for the first time in a full practice, in a full team practice today. The first time since he tore his ACL in the 2019 NBA Finals, and also his right Achilles. in November of 2020. So, I mean, he's been through a lot of tough luck, but I'm glad that he's able to get back in the saddle with medicines and doctors. The way they work things now is all fair and level war. So hopefully just take his time, get back in the saddle slowly, don't try to rush anything, and give him a standing ovation. And also the medical crew for making they can Humpty Dumpty sit on the wall, had a great fall, but they put him back together again. All fair. Now the Splash Brothers are back. The Splash Brothers are definitely back, and they'll be splashing on at Chase Center. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Bourdini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you flow like a butterfly, you sing like a bee, rumble, young men, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? And Ali would say, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat because of all these big cheeseburgers. They make me feel light on my feet. That's why I'm always rumbling. I float like a butterfly, I sting like a bee, and that's why I can't possibly be beat. I love the rumble and the jumble. Rumble, young man, rumble. Everybody rumbling. You can rumble too. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. You know, any man, woman, or child going through that garbage to get the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.